So it's been a minute since I did a video, and then since that time, there was a shooting here where I live in Milwaukee. I'm originally from Chicago, but I reside in Milwaukee now. And it was another shooting of, a police officer and a person of color. And I'm not gonna go into details about the shooting because I'm sure everybody has heard about it. And I really don't want to take sides because I really, the circumstantial evidence that's come out is kind of alluding to that, the guy that was murdered or killed or, the police um, doing his job, it's there's no video. And because I think from the evidence that we hear, maybe the police were doing their job, and this incident, wasn't like others. And with me saying that, and let me just go into what I really want to get into, and how all this shit can get misconstrued and pushed around. There's no two situations that are exactly alike. There may be similarities, but there's no two situations that are exactly alike. So by me saying that, every time a cop shoots a person of color, doesn't mean that that cop's racist. It doesn't mean that that cop was um, overreacting or doing his job, unless we have hardcore um, evidence on the situation. We can only speculate. Now that doesn't take away, or I'm not saying that, oh, there's not some racist cops out here murdering people of color. Oh, for sure. And that's been going on since the beginning of time. So I'm never taking it away from anybody. And I'm also not saying that every person of color who gets murdered by police officers or killed or whatever you want to call it, that maybe they didn't cause the reason for them to get shot or murdered. But what we have to do is stop picking sides. We have to stop trying to be in the in crowd and talk shit about how, well, if you just obey the law and this and that, that won't happen. No, that's not always true. So you can't say that. Like I said before, not every circumstance or situations are the same. It not, even though they may have similarities. So you can't go and say that, well, if you just obey the law and do what you want, nothing will never happen. That's bullshit. That's the same thing saying, well, if you mind your business in your neighborhood, nothing or whatever will ever happen to you. I'm sure the people that were sitting in the theater when the guy went in there and shot the theater up, they weren't fucking with nobody or doing anything. They probably were in a great neighborhood, but things happen. So we can't continue to try to lump everything into the same category. And the media got us, pitted against each other, our families, our upbringing, and this one-sidedness of we on this side and they on that side. It's all just a big clusterfuck of bullshit. Because when it all comes down to it, black and white is perception. And I say that because I'm considered to be a black person. My hair is black. There's a distinction between my hair and my face or my skin color. You can get the darkest person that you can find and put them on a black t-shirt. There would be a distinction between that t-shirt and that person's skin color. It's the same thing with white people. You can find the quote-unquote whitest or fairest of skins of Caucasian people and put them on a white shirt, and there would be a distinction between the two. And I say this to say that I have a disability and it was due to a gunshot. And people will call me disabled. But with me being disabled, I get up and go to work every day. I spend a lot of time in the gym. I don't really go out and hang out as much because I don't really have time to waste on frivolous bullshit. And when I can be growing myself mentally and spiritually, whether I'm by myself or around people who have the like ideas or think the way I, not exactly the way I think, but we share some commonality. So I say that because in 2012, like I said before, I had 7 blood transfusions. And not one of those bags were labeled by, quote unquote race. So what is that telling me and what is that telling you? That we are innately the same people, inside and out. We use labels to create separation, to feel like we're better than this or that person. So we create labels and class. Now, is there some differences between, people who have different skin pigmentation, the DNA makeup? There's there's some difference because, when you're born in certain parts of the country or the world or whatever, the environment and stuff like that plays a big role in your development. So there are some differences, but when it all boils down to it, we the same people. We are all here for one another. And it's kind of hard for you probably to see that because during your upbringing, from day one, you've been taught by society and parenting, separation and you're different and this person is that and this person is this. And so we grow up on that and we behave in that manner. So we treat each other differently. None of this stops racism, murder, etc. until we start looking at each other as human beings and not the color of our skin or about how much money this person, this and that person had. And another thing, and Black Lives Matter. For anybody who opposes or try to, criminalize this quote unquote movement, you don't have any idea or you totally get the whole Black Lives movement misconstrued. Just because someone is, burning down or rioting or doing this and that, and they yell out Black Lives Matter, doesn't mean that they're a part of the movement. They're yelling out a phrase that, people have been hashtagging and all this other stuff to say that Black Lives Matter, but that don't mean they're a part of the movement. So just because they're doing criminal activity, or what we want to call quote unquote criminal activity, because we want to talk about criminal activity, the United States commits criminal activity on a daily basis. So I'm just saying that we can't take that and just because somebody, yells out Black Lives Matter, that they're part of the movement. No. That's just like me going to a football stadium and the Ravens are playing the Steelers, but I yell out, "Go Bears." I'm at a football game between the Ravens and the Steelers. What the hell do the Bears got to do with it? It's just me yelling something out. So we can't get that fucked up in the game. It's no different than if somebody goes, if there's a Caucasian person who goes and shoot up a school, regardless of what nationalities are in the school, and he yells out white power. That doesn't mean he's with the Klan or he's a part of that movement. He's yelling that out for whatever reason. So we can't get that messed up. So when people say Black Lives Matter, they're not disrespecting or not saying that other lives don't matter. Because if you really want to talk about it, you want to yell all lives matter, let's do this. If all lives really mattered, we would be standing up, marching, everybody, about the homelessness in our country and throughout the world, about child abuse throughout our country and throughout the world, about the murders that go on in the inner city and out of the city. We all would be standing up and marching and trying to create a solution for this if all lives really matters. If all lives really matter, there's no reason in the world that I should be able to go to a store or any place and see people who don't have disabilities parking in disabled parking if all lives matter. See where I'm going with this? So instead of trying to pick a side and be on the in crowd and be a part of a team, like I said before, if you're not actively and consciously in your world trying to create a better place or better situations for everybody involved, and the only time you want to jump out and say something and hoop and holler is when something happened and you want to act like you're doing the right thing and you want to come out with all, well, you shouldn't be doing that. If you're not actively participating in a betterment of the human race, then you really need to shut up. Because you're just talking at that point and trying to prove a point or trying to be in the in crowd. You're not helping the situation at all. And that's our problem here in this society. We all are selfish. We only care about ourselves. And we think that we are better than other people. We have to start doing right by each other. And people of color, if you can get mad and upset with police officers for them murdering us, and you say that, well, the ones who are not bad cops, they sit back and watch and they don't say anything and make them just as bad. If that's the truth, and that does make them just as bad. But when there's a murder committed in your community and the cops come in and they searching for answers and you don't say anything because there's no snitching rule, what does that make you? We can't be hypocritical when it comes to these situations, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And you can't say that, well, it's a difference, it's no difference. And then people want to say, well, we know the police officers are supposed to be held at a higher standard and this and that. So what are you saying? That because they labeled as police officers, that they're somehow better than you? And that they somehow supposed to be more civilized as humans than you because they're police officers? And because you're not a police officer, you don't have that label, you should be able to behave and kill and murder one another, and that's different? You know how insane that sounds? So when people bring up black on black crime or whatever, there is such thing as white on white crime or whatever you want to call it. But when people bring it up and then you have people like, well, you cooning, and they ain't got nothing to do with nothing, really. It doesn't happen to do anything. And that's not me justifying anybody murdering anybody. Because when cops murder unarmed innocent people, regardless of what color their skin, that shit is wrong. They need to go to jail just like everybody else goes to jail. But when people say, well, black people, when they murder each other, go to jail, not all of them go to jail. I know some people that have murdered people, and they still out here walking around and still committing crimes, so forth. So you have, like I said, you can't, every situation isn't the same. So if we really want change, we have to start in our communities. And I don't understand how in the world that with all the, in the last few years and all the broadcasting of cops, murdering unarmed black men and innocent people. I don't understand how in the black community, or I keep saying black, but in the color community, or the people of color community, how we still running around shooting and killing each other. I don't understand it. Because we march and tear up shit and all type of shit when the cops do it to us. Like I keep on saying, when are we gonna start, marching and tearing up shit from when we do it? And when I say when are we, I don't mean just people of color. I mean Caucasian people and everybody. Because if all lives matter, Caucasian people, why aren't you out here advocating and helping also? And this is not just when something happens. This has to be on a daily, regular routine, but that's not going to happen because we're selfish. We don't worry about anybody else until some bullshit happens. So, I could go on, but I know once the videos run too long, people, start to tune out. But all I'm saying is that we have to do better by each other as human beings. We can't continue to let the media influences, will influence our thoughts, our perceptions of people, etc. We have to really deal with people on an individual basis because not everyone is the same. And this stuff is never going to end until we decide to treat each other in the way that we want to be treated. If you want to play the victim, you would be treated like the victim. If you want to play the victor, you would be treated like the victor. So, with that said, that's all I'm going to say about this. I'm going to have more videos, sooner. And what I would like people to do, if there's any questions that you may have for me or you may disagree with anything I say, leave comments. And what I do is I make short videos to address your comments. And we can do that back and forth. I'm more better at, answering questions when people ask me, because then that gives me a little, something to play with. So if you like anything I say or you disagree with anything that I say in these videos, leave comments and questions and start a dialogue. Start the dialogue. I'm more than willing to have dialogue with people. And we can agree, we can disagree, we can argue or whatever. But as long as the conversation starts, I think that's a start into the healing process of any situation.